Okay, so in our last lesson we covered presentation on CSPF. So now our goal in this session is to complete Lab 3, which is the labs on CSPF. So let's just get started with our baseline configuration. So we're just going to check what our starting point is. Now, in the CSPF lab, you're asked to restore the baseline configuration, and then from there you go ahead and set up your BGP configuration, which is going to require you to set up your next hop self again. You're also going to set up your then go ahead and set up your interfaces for your MPLS and RSVP. So let's just take a look at our starting configuration. Just going to go a show BGP summary. So we're looking for BGP to be established on both of these devices. So we need to have that up. That's that's absolute must-have starting point. Okay, what we're also wanting to do is to configure MPLS and RSVP on our interfaces. So I've already done that, so we can verify that with the show MPLS interfaces command. And we'll do the same down here. So we've got both of our interfaces are up, and we can do the same for RSVP. So there's our RSVP interfaces. We'll also check our RSVP neighbors, and we should see that we've got two neighbors established there as well, and you should be able to see that on both. Okay, so that's MPLS and RSVP configured on those MX devices. So the next step is, next step we have to go and enable our traffic engineering extensions. So first of all, let's go and take a look at our current state of OSPF. And we're going to do show OSPF database, and we'll see the information that is in there: router, network. We've got our area information, and so on. Okay, so we've got router, network, and opaque area LSAs being flooded, and if we take a look at our traffic engineering database, we'll find that we actually don't have one. So show TED database, and there we are. We actually don't have anything in there at all. So what we want to do is we want to enable traffic engineering on our IGP. So let's go and do that. Edit protocols OSPF, and we are going to set traffic engineering, and we're going to commit and quit. And we'll take another look at our traffic engineer, at our OSPF database. This can take a little while to populate, so don't panic if you don't see everything that is in the lab right away. Okay, so what we're looking in here is we have some additional opaque area flooding, and we'll do a show TED database. And we actually have something in our traffic engineering database. So we're seeing information about our network topology, which wasn't there before. So we go through and take a look at all the routers in our topology, information about their links, their router IDs, etc. Go through and take a look at all of that. So we're going to have to enable this on both devices. So let's get that done. Edit protocols OSPF, and we're going to set traffic engineering and commit that. Okay, so we've got that enabled. Let's take a closer look at a specific router here. So let's go and take a look at show our TED database, and we'll look at our 192.168.1.2 router. What else can we see here? That's it. Extensive. Let's do extensive. Okay, so what we're seeing here is some information about this particular router. We're looking at the bandwidth on our links. We've got 1 gig links here. We've got a bandwidth for different priorities set up. What else can we see here? This is OSPF area 0 we're looking at. So we're looking at information, connectivity information to different parts of our network. Okay, so we've got some information in relation to the links that are associated with this particular router. Alright, so now that we've got traffic engineering set up, let's go and set up an LSP. Go into configuration mode. We are going to edit protocols MPLS. And we're going to create a path. So let's just go ahead and create this path here. In the lab, you've got set path name, set path name. So essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to give it a name. So in this case, we're going to call this. Where are we going with this? We're going path name. Yeah. Well, we're going to actually going to give it a name. I mean, yes, you could call the path name, but we're probably going to give it a name. So where are we going with this LSP? We're going over to the other PE. To this path name is, this is here, 192.168.5.2 is P2. So I'm going to call this path name set path. I'm going to call it V via P2. Via P2, that's my path name, and we're going to put in 192.168.5.2 loose. Okay, so that's my path. So I've created a path. I've called it via P2 because 192.168.5.2 is in fact my P2. So I should say provider core router in our core. Now we're going to set up our label switch path. So set label switch path. We're going to call this path LSP gold PE1 to PE2 -1. How that's going to go. So switch label. Set label switch path. The name is LSP gold PE1 to PE2 -1. So that's the name of our path. The egress is 192.168.1.2. Okay, so that's our path. Let's take a look at that. So we've got a path specified, and we've got a LSP specified. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply that path to the LSP. And it is called LSP, that's the name of it, and we are going to apply this as the primary path. Primary, and the path name is, what do we call it again? Via P2, that's what we called it. Let's double check that's what I called it. Yep, via P2. Via P2. Alright, so there's my path name. Let's take a look at that. Alright, so there's my primary path, which is via P2, applied now to the LSP. Okay. Alright, what we're going to do with this next one, we're going to set up another LSP. We're going to set it up. This is the LSP silver. We'll call this PE1 to PE2 -1. So let's go and set this one up. So we've got our gold. We're going to set up a silver. You can probably guess we're going to be using link affinity with this. So and we're going to be using constraints with those links. So let's go ahead and set this one up. This is LSP silver, and this one is going to be PE1 to PE2, and the egress 192.168.1.2. We're going to apply the path to this. I'm just going to go like that, and put my primary, and the path is going to be via P2, same path, via P2. Okay, let's take a look at that. So now we've got two labels with paths. One is LSP Gold P1 to P2 -1, and the other one is LSP Silver P1 to P2 -1. Both using the same egress and both using the same primary path. Okay. So let's set up another one. Oops. Okay, don't need that. Let's set up another one, and this is going to be a bronze path. So I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit here, and I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to change the name to bronze. Okay, so there's our bronze path, and we're using the same primary path. Oops, via P2. Alrighty, so there we are. We'll take a look at that. And we now have three paths, a gold, a silver, and a bronze, all going to the same egress, 192.168.1.2, and all using a loose hop, which is specified in our path, which I have named via P2. And there's our path down there, which is a loose hop via P2. So commit, and we'll click that one there, and we'll just check our sessions to see if they are in fact up. Let's see how we went with that. Look at that. There's our three paths, and our three paths are in fact up. So what's happened is RSVP has been able to successfully signal those three paths, and they're all using, at this stage, they would all be using exactly the same path. And if we wanted to verify that, use the extensive attribute, or sorry, the extensive command there, and we'll actually get the path. So take a look at where this is going. We'll get the actual path down here. So this is the explicit route, and we can see the path that that particular LSP is taking. So this is the record route. It's going from itself. This is the actual path that it's taking on the way through, and if you compare that with the other paths, you'll find it's actually exactly the same. Why is it exactly the same? Well, because we're simply following the IGP's best path selection, and we haven't told it to do anything different except go through a particular router on the way, which was P2. So they've all given exactly the same requirements. Right, so there we are. So they're all up, and they're all taking exactly the same path. Alrighty. So you need to do that on the other router as well. So we'll do that. we're going to okay, there's somebody else logged into my device. Looks like somebody might be logged into my device. Anyway, maybe not. Okay, so let's just go in and configure this. Protocols, MPLS. We're going to set up our path statement to begin with, and I'm going to give it exactly the same name actually. So set path, and I'm going to call it fire P2. Which is 5.2 loose. Okay. Of course, loose means that we're not specifying all of the hops on the way to that path. We are just saying that it has to go, to that particular router. We're just saying it has to go through that router, and we don't really mind what path it takes on its way there, or what path it takes on its way from that router, as long as it goes through it. Okay, so we've got our path set up. Let's set up our label switch paths. Set label switch path. This is going to be called. Oh, cheat here. I'm pretty good at that. I'm going to call it. No, I can't cheat because I've got to give it a different name. All right. This one's going to be called LSP. It's going to be called Gold. Gold LSP. And this one's going from PE2 to PE1. Okay, so we're going the other way. PE2 to PE1. And the egress is 192.168.1.1 on the other end. Okay, all good. Let's set the paths statement on there. Primary fire, oops, P2. Okay. All right, so we're going to set up a silver and we're going to set up a bronze. So, and actually just got to do this the easy way. Silver. And let's put the primary path. P2. And let's set up our bronze. Let's take a look at that. So we should have three paths there: a gold, a silver, and a bronze, all going to the same egress, all using the same primary path. 192.168.5.2. All right, let's commit that. And let's see if these are up. And they are. In fact, we can see we can actually see the return path as well set up on the other router. So we can see this router being the ingress. We've got the paths that we've just created, and we've also got the other paths coming from the other MX router, of which this particular router is the egress. So those paths are up as well. Alrighty, all good. And if we of course take a look at the extensive we would see the exact path that they're taking. So we go down to the record route starting at self, and we can see the path that it's taking on the way through, and you will notice that they're all taking the same path. So we're going basically 206, 201, 206, 201, all going through the same path on the way there. Alright, that's what we would expect to happen. Okay. Alright, so now that we've got our LSP set up, what we're going to do now is we're going to set up these some administrative groups, and we're going to then apply those onto our interfaces. So into configuration mode and edit protocols MPLS. So let's set up some admin groups here. So our labs have got us setting up a gold, a silver, and a bronze. So we'll do that. So admin group, and this is going to be called gold. This group, oops. Admin group that we're looking for. Yes. Gold 1. So that's that one. Let's go and set up silver, which is 2. And bronze. Which is 3. So we should be able to see that there now. There they are. So there's our admin groups, gold, silver, and bronze. And what we can do is we can go ahead and apply those onto our interfaces. So let's take a look at our interfaces here. We are going to set up, so let's go to edit interfaces. Edit interfaces and set. Actually, no, we're not under edit interfaces, we're under edit protocols. Apologies. So edit protocols MPLS. We're going to set our interface GE 000.210, and we're going to give that admin group silver. Oops, not going to take it yet. Silver, and we're also going to give it bronze. So it's going to get 2 admin groups. And we're going to set our other interface, which is going to be 211, 001, and that's going to be gold. Take a look at our interfaces. We can see our interfaces now have admin groups applied. So let's commit that and let's do a show MPLS interface, and we should see those applied. There they are. So we're seeing that GE000 has got bronze and silver, and 001 has got gold. So we need to do that over on our other devices as well. Actually, go to MPLS, and we'll set these admin groups. Okay, so we're doing gold, silver, and bronze. Oops. Gold is 1, and silver, and bronze. Which is 3. And now we're going to apply those onto our interfaces themselves. In this case, it is 212 is our unit number, and we're going to make that silver. Oops. Admin group. Oops. Committed it yet, so we can't do that. Silver. And bronze. And then we'll make the other one gold. Oops. Gold. So it's going to be 213, and that's going to be interface 001. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so there's our admin group set up, and we should be able to see the interfaces there with the admin groups applied to them. Okay, let's commit that. And show MPLS interfaces, and there we are, the groups applied. All good, so we've got that set up on both ends. Alrighty, so now what we can do is we can put some constraints on our paths. So let's go and edit that. So edit protocols, MPLS, oops, MPLS. So what we're going to do is we've got our label switch paths there, so let's just take a look at them. There they are. And 1, 2, and 3, there's our 3 paths. So we've got one of them which is called gold, one called silver, one called bronze. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply the admin groups to those label switch paths, and we're going to include the color. Makes it pretty easy because we've given it names which tell us which one is which. So let's do that. Label switch path. So the first one we're interested in is this one here. And what we want to do with that is we want to apply an admin group. And this one is to include any gold. So we're going to say include any gold. That one. And you probably guess what's coming next. We're going to change this silver path to include any silver. do the bronze one. Okay, so let's take a look at that now. So here's our gold LSP, and what we've done, we've applied this admin group to it to include any gold, and of course on the silver one we've applied the admin group to include any silver, and there's our bronze, we include any bronze. All good. Okay, so let's commit that, and let's see if we can still build our paths with all of that. Oops. Commit and quit, and we'll see if our sessions came up. We've actually got an issue where two paths are down and one is up. I wonder if that's just a time delay, or is it the fact that we can't actually build those paths? Maybe that could be the problem. Of course, one of the issues is that I haven't actually configured the other end yet. Okay, so that may be a problem. Let's have a look. Okay, now they're all down. Okay, so it hasn't gotten any better. So we've gone the fact that none of my new paths, none of my paths are in fact up at the moment. I can't even find one of them. Let's have a look. Oh, one of them's totally disappeared altogether. That's interesting, isn't it? Alright, so having a few issues here, getting our path up. Alright, so I think what we may need to be doing here is configuring up the other end and seeing how that goes. Although I think this should be up, to be honest with you. I don't think that should be down. There we are, now they're up. Took a little time, okay. Took a little time to get up, so there we are. Now they're up. What I would have expected. So sometimes, as you can see, it takes a bit of a little time to signal up these paths. Alright, so that is now up. And if we were to take a look at the actual paths that are being taken, and we'll do a detail on that one, we will get some information about where it's actually going. So what we're looking at is this record route. This tells us the path that it's actually taking. So it's starting with itself. This one's going through 210, 201, 205, 204, and 207. And let's go down and take a look at so that was what path was that? That's the bronze path. Let's take a look at the gold path. Record route 202, 201, 205, 204. So it is in fact taking a different path to the path that our bronze LSP took. And if we take a look at our silver, look at the record route. Where is it going through 202, 203, 205, 206? Okay, so it's taking a different path again. So what we do find is that they are all in fact taking a different path, and the reason they're taking a different path, of course, is that we have defined those constraints on the LSP, and those constraints are the admin group constraints, which are then forcing it to take a different path. Okay, so really what we're doing now is we're applying constraints to the CSPF algorithm. The CSPF algorithm is building an explicit route object, passing that over to RSVP, and RSVP is now signaling up that path with the explicit route object that CSPF has created. So each of these different LSPs has got a different explicit route object with a different path in it, and that ERO has been created based on the constraints that we have provided to the CSPF algorithm. Okay, so really what we have demonstrated there is that CSPF algorithm works, and we're able to provide constraints that result in a different path being taken based on the constraints that we have provided. There's other things that we could do. We could put bandwidth in there. We could put a number of other things in there if you wanted to. What we've really just demonstrated now is how the admin groups affect path selection. Alrighty, so that wraps up our lab 3. Of course, we could go ahead and configure that on our other router. We'll basically see exactly the same result with paths going back in the other direction, and of course you will do that, so you'll see the paths going both ways. Alrighty, so that wraps up our session. The next thing we're going to be talking about is traffic protection, and we will do the lab on that. I believe that in your list of labs, lab 4 is not included. However, we are going to talk about it, and I will demonstrate it as one of the labs that I'm going to show you. Okay, so that wraps up lab 3.